Good evening, and welcome to the 2025 Milton Speaks Candidates Forum. My name is Lawson Bodwin, and I will be tonight's introductory host and moderator for the first forum. I'm joined by Miss Elaine Carroll of the Milton Times, and Miss Ida Zoll, Miss Penelope Jane, and Mr. Kevin Gomes of the Milton High School debate team. First, some housekeeping. Candidates were contacted through the town clerk's office as well as MATV for participation in these forums. Candidates were not provided the questions or subject matter before tonight's debate. Tonight's questions will be directed towards all candidates. No individual questions will be asked. Tonight's questions will be asked by members of our press panel. We also solicited questions from the public. If you don't hear your question being asked, it may be part of another question or a repeat question from another panel member. The format for tonight's forum. Each candidate will be allowed a 90-second opening statement. Candidates will then be asked questions by members of the panel. Each candidate will be allowed a 90-second response to each question. The order for the first question will be alphabetical by last name, with the order changing for each subsequent question. There will be a 1-minute closing statement offered to each candidate, for which the order will be chosen randomly. There will be no rebuttals. I will signal when you have 15 seconds remaining to allow you to wrap up your answer. I ask that you finish your thoughts and bring your response to a close at that time. Please also reference the countdown clock on the TV screen in front of you. Tonight's forum will feature the candidates for Select Board, Moderator, Board of Assessors, and School Committee. We will begin with our Select Board candidates. Each candidate was asked to submit a brief bio, which I will read. After their bio, the candidate will read their opening statement. We begin with Miss Musto. Roxanne is a lifelong Milton resident who has worked as a nurse and nurse practitioner for many years and currently works as a nurse practitioner caring for our elderly population. She serves as the vice chair of the Select Board, a member of the Board of Health, and a longtime town meeting member from Precinct 5. She has served on numerous committees and organizations over the years, including the Warrant Committee. As a working mother of 2 children who also attended and graduated from the Milton Public Schools, she has been very involved in educational organizations in Milton as well. She welcomes the opportunity to speak to those tuning in now, as well as those who choose to watch the recording afterwards. Welcome, Ms. Musto. You have a minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you to Milton Access TV, Milton High School debate team, and Milton Times for hosting this forum. My name is Roxanne Musto, and I'm running for re-election to the Select Board. I'm a lifelong Milton resident, as well as a graduate of the Milton Public Schools. I have a bachelor's degree from Boston University and a master's from Northeastern. I've worked as a nurse for the past 10 years and for the past 25 as a nurse practitioner, caring for elderly patients in nursing homes, assisted livings, and in their own homes. My husband Anthony and I have 2 sons, Michael and Brandon, who both attended the Milton Public Schools. When my children attended Tucker Elementary, I became active in the PTO. I was one of the founding members of the outdoor classrooms established at our public schools. Further, I served on the Milton Foundation for Education and often served on the subcommittee for the Teacher of the Year Awards. I currently serve as Vice Chair of the Select Board. I also serve on the Board of Health, been serving as a Precinct 5 town meeting member since 2001, and in the past I've served on various other town boards and committees, including the Warrant Committee. I'm running for re-election because I want to ensure that as one of your elected representatives on the Select Board, your voice is heard and your perspective is valued when our board considers proposals that affect you. When I was elected in 2022, I promised to bring a transparent, collaborative approach to the board where all voices are heard. From ensuring that Select Board packets are posted online for residents to review, to asking the hard questions in meetings so residents are informed regarding decision-making, to prioritizing needs of residents where our board deliberates that matters that directly affect them, Milton residents know that I'll always put them and their interests first. I'm running on my track record of doing the work for the residents each day, and if elected to a second term on Tuesday, April 29th, I will continue to serve the residents as I always have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Next, Mr. Daly. Winston has 15 years of professional expertise in financial services and institutional investing at companies like State Street, BNY Mellon, and Brown Brothers Harriman & Co. He also has 10 years of experience as a facilitator and nonprofit consultant, connecting people through conversations on difficult topics ranging from violence, prevention and sexual assault to designing youth and family programs. Winston is currently serving in our town government as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner and town meeting member for Precinct 2. His contributions to the Milton community include serving as a member of the site council at Tucker Elementary School, the founder of the Tucker Basketball League, and a former member of the Milton Foundation for Education and the Milton Youth Task Force, and over a decade coaching Milton Youth softball and basketball. Winston is looking to bringing a positive, collaborative, forward-thinking leadership style to the Select Board to help unite Milton in a support of our shared priorities. Welcome, Mr. Daly. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. First, thank you to Milton Access, thank you to the Milton Times, and thank you to you students for providing us with this forum to share our thoughts and our view for Milton. As shared, my name is Winston Daly, and I'm running for a seat on the Select Board. My wife and I have lived in Milton for the past 12 years. Our daughter Zaria has been here in Milton since kindergarten, where she started at Tucker Elementary, and she is now a junior here at the high school. I am running for Select Board because I truly believe in service and in being embedded in our community. I did not grow up in a town like Milton, so I value all the resources and the people in the community that Milton has provided for myself and for my family. This is why I think it's important to have that kind of community aspect on the Select Board. You've heard my resume as read, and so I've been in a lot of different spaces. I started out in the financial space, speaking about fiduciary responsibility as well as investing the funds of Fortune 500 companies. I've also worked in the space of community, building youth programs, working with families, speaking about equity and access. And I've brought that kind of modeling here to Milton in my life as a parent and a community member. And that is what I want to bring to the board. Not only the ability to handle our finances, conducting the business of Milton, but also thinking about our community. What pulls us together? What are our shared priorities? How do we all row in the same direction to set the vision and mission for what we want Milton to be? And so I thank you all, and I look forward to sharing this time with my other candidates.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Next, Ms. Hegarty. Megan Hegarty is a proud Milton resident and mother of two, who has nearly 2 decades of experience in state and local government. She is a graduate of Harvard College, where she earned her bachelor's degree in social studies and holds a master's in public policy and urban planning from the Harvard Kennedy School. Megan is running for Select Board to continue her commitment to public service and support the vibrant community her family calls home. If elected, she will put her extensive experience in state and municipal government to work for Milton's residents. Megan is dedicated to bringing creativity, fresh perspectives, and proactive solutions to the challenges our town faces. Her leadership will focus on uniting our community, addressing real issues with practical solutions, and building a future where Milton thrives for everyone. Welcome, Ms. Hegarty. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thanks to the Milton debate team. My name's Megan Hegarty. I'm a proud Milton resident, a mother of 2 wonderful kids, and I'm a longtime public servant with nearly 2 decades of experience running agencies and departments in state and local government. This town is my home. It's where I'm raising my family and where I'm deeply invested in building a stronger, more connected Milton. I have valuable experience to offer Milton's taxpayers. I've planned and balanced budgets, managed complex projects, improved performance of large capital programs, saving Commonwealth residents millions of dollars. I know how to get things done, and I know how government works. And more importantly, I know how it should work for you. I'm running for Select Board because I believe that Milton deserves leadership that listens, acts, and delivers. We are at a pivotal moment for our town, and we need leaders who can thoughtfully guide our growth and who understand the budget they manage is a reflection of our values, and it only works if it works for you. I'm ready to deliver for you on day one.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. And for our last candidate, Mr. Hogan. Mr. Hogan, you have 90 seconds for your, oh wait, I'm so sorry. And our last candidate, Mr. Hogan. Paul Hogan is an experienced attorney with a strong background in municipal government and project management. A devoted father of 4 and Milton resident since 1995, Paul is looking to give back to the community where he has raised his children and operates his law firm. Paul previously served on the Milton School Committee and on the original school building committee from 2002 until 2013. Welcome, Mr. Hogan. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Milton High debate team. I enjoyed being on the debate team in high school for 3 years, and it's a very valuable experience and very helpful when I became a lawyer. I'm a graduate of Boston College. I have a master's degree in public administration from the University of Southern California, and I'm running to be on the select board because I care about this community. I've raised 4 children, 4 daughters through the Milton Public Schools, and I operate my law business here. It's an important thing to me, a very important community. And I believe that I have a unique experience that I could bring to the board. I was on the school committee here in Milton. I was chairman of the school committee here in Milton during some very difficult issues. I was on the Milton School Building Committee for 11 years, and I'm proud to be sitting here in the high school and the other 6 schools that we have. It was a lot of work. And beyond that, I came here in 1995, but prior to coming here, I was chair of the Watertown City Council. I had the highest position in the town of Watertown, and I ran those meetings. My stance is that there should be transparency, there should be representation, listening to all the different groups, taking in all the information to make the very best decisions possible for the town, not leaning towards one side or the other. I call myself a voice of reason, and I've tried to enable that in all my prior public life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. And now we will begin the forum. We will start first with a question from Ms. Jane, and will be first asked to Mr. Daly, then Ms. Hegarty, then Mr. Hogan, and finally Ms. Musto. Ms. Jane.
Okay. My first question is, why should the voters choose you to represent them, and what do you consider the most important thing that the town of Milton faces at this time?
Thank you. So why should the voters support me? I think for myself, I bring a new voice and energy to Milton. I've not been here for the last 30 or 40 years. I'm part of the newer group of parents and very community advocates that are here in Milton. I think that voice is severely needed. I think the idea about entertaining all of Milton, bringing in all the voices, my career speaks to that. In that I'm not wanting to listen to the folks who vote for me, but you have to speak to the people who have not, even those who are disengaged, those who are used to not being heard, that we present a space and a place that everyone in Milton feels that they can be heard. And that has always been my space when I've been a community member here in Milton. When I built a basketball league at Tucker's, because our kids did not feel safe or heard in other spaces when they went and played. When I worked with our school leaders throughout the 10 years that my daughter's been in the school system, it was about how do you create high quality programs, but also listen to your parents and your students and finding out what they need. That is what I want to bring to the select board. Not that I'm here on only one issue. You elect folks to lead. You elect people who can work through all of the issues, even those that are unforeseen and also those who plan ahead. And that is what I want to bring to the select board.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Ms. Hegarty, you have the floor.
Thank you. So what I would bring to the select board, and what I think the select board really needs at this moment in time, is executive level experience. We need people who understand how to lead large organizations and who understand how to work across boards to deliver decisions on time and to make decisions regardless how popular they are or they aren't. We need folks who will vote their conscience. I have a long track record of working in complex environments such as our town hall. I've worked for 2 mayoral administrations. I worked for Mayor Tom Menino and Mayor Marty Walsh. I've to do that, and I would like to bring that to the select board.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. Mr. Hogan?
Thank you. One of the things that I was interested in, one of the purposes of running, was I felt there was too much division in some of the meetings in Milton. And I think my experience, having been on boards, will be helpful in trying to work on alleviating that problem. I think that the select board members should represent the whole town, not just a portion of it or not just an ideology. In the past, I've had a unique experience to, as I said, I ran the city council in Watertown for 4 years. That's a city government. There was a lot of challenging things that occurred there. The United States government gave us 37 acres for the arsenal, and we had to redistribute that and develop that land. And that involved reaching out to the whole community. And the same here when I was on the Milton School Committee and chair of the school committee, is reaching out and working with the teachers, working with the parents, working with the children, and then residents who don't have children, to hear their voices. So I think that I have that kind of experience and kind of ability Also being an attorney, I think that it'll be helpful on the board with some of the difficult issues that occur, that I might be helpful, might be useful, and that's why I think that I could be helpful to kind of bring us more together and less division.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Ms. Musto, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm currently, as you know, Vice Chair of the Select Board, and what I have prided myself on is transparency and bringing people together, working together through difficult problems that we've had and that we continue to have in the town. All different voices, listening to all different voices in the town. What I do every day in my professional life as a nurse practitioner, that's what I do. I have to often bring good news to people and bad news to people. I have to be honest, I have to be transparent, and I have to explain things to people. And I feel like that is really important in this environment, is to be transparent, honest, and I think that with my skills, people trust me. People feel that they can come to me with an issue and that they know that I will try to get them the answer. And if I don't have the answer, I will try to find that for them. And I think that's really important to do because, you know, it's not just the loud voices in the community, it's often the quiet voices that we try to help as well. And I think that's the way to do it, is to work with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. The next question will be from Ms. Zoll and will be asked first to Ms. Hegarty. Ms. Zoll, you have the floor.
What questions that the Select Board has made in the past few years do you disagree with and or would have handled differently?
Thank you for that question. I think that for me, over the past few years, I think that the Select Board could have provided more leadership on advancing our zoning proposals and getting us getting the town together to advance the MBTA Communities Act. I think that the Select Board and the Planning Board could have listened more to folks in East Milton, in addition to how they listen to folks in other parts of town. And you know, I think that we also should be working to negotiate and come up with a compliant plan.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. The next question, or sorry, Mr. Hogan, you have the floor.
I think the Select Board maybe could have helped do better financial forecasting. We have an override vote this year, and I support the override, but it's $9.5 million, and it came sort of up quickly, and I don't believe that all the financial forecasting that could have been done was done to prepare everyone for this. And also, I don't think there's a lot of future forecasting, because beyond this override, there's the question of the new fire station and the question of the new schools. So we need to look very seriously at the amount of money that we're going to have in the next 5 to 10 years and figure out how we're going to do that. I've had the experience of being able to do that, to run budgets, and I was on the school finance committee for a number of years here in Milton. And back then, we were able to see into the future and project ahead to see what was coming down the line. There's a lot of challenges to our budget, and I think that that's probably the biggest issue that the Select Board could have maybe done a better job on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Ms. Musto, you have the floor.
That's a tough one for me because I sit on the Select Board right now. But I think that there have been some issues with prior board in terms of transparency, and I think that that's really important. I think with regards to the MBTA Communities Act, it would have been nice to have worked hand in hand with the planning board instead of rushing out a plan when we did. And it penalized a lot of the people that live in East Milton. So I was not in favor of that way of doing things. I think communication is a big issue. Oftentimes one department, one department will have something on their radar and the other department doesn't know about that. And I have the unique ability where I also sit on the Board of Health, so I see that a lot, where there's something going on, you know, in one department, the other department has no idea about it. I know about it sometimes from being on the Select Board, and then I help sort of mediate that. So that is something that's very important, because you have to have a cohesive government to all understand what's going on in other aspects of the town. I think budgeting is really huge, because we don't want to be caught off guard with these overrides that are huge and not anticipate what's going to happen. So I think, a closer scrutiny of that would have been better, maybe meeting monthly between the town and the schools to understand that on a monthly basis what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Mr. Daly, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think I'm going to sort of pull together what's been said by my fellow candidates here. And I think what I've been disappointed in over the last few years or so, it's not necessarily one question, is that I think we have not led. Our select board has not been out there speaking for what the town needs to do and why it is important. Whether it's the MBTA Communities Act, where we had a rush plan, where we lost a few months in our planning, and then we put out a plan that did not pass, and we went to referendum. We didn't lead and get the community together to say these are our options, these are the possible consequences. We sort of sat back and sat on our hands, let things happen to us. Whether it is our finances with the override that is coming up, and that we did not convene our finance committee, and that we perhaps had a chance a year or two ago to have a smaller override, but we did not. That was not shared or really presented to the town in a way that parents and taxpayers had the opportunity to really be a part of that. So I think in terms of leadership, the select board has allowed things to happen to us, and we appear to be catching up. We appear to not be able to forecast, not to have a proactive method of leading Milton, of setting a vision. And I think that's the thing I'm most disappointed in, because now I say it does not matter what the question is. I'm not sure if the folks who we've put in charge of handling these questions have done well enough in communicating not only their process, but also why the decision.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. The next question will be from Ms. Zoll, and will be asked first to Mr. Hogan. Ms. Zoll, you have the floor.
According to Zillow, the average single-family home value in Milton during March 2016 was between $630,000 and $650,000. Right now, that same single-family home value, according to Zillow, is over $1 million. If this trend persists, a significant portion of my classmates and myself won't be able to afford living in Milton when we are in our 20s or 30s. What is your solution to address this and make Milton more livable for future generations who'd like to build their own lives in my hometown, in their hometown?
Oh, that's a great question, and I have 4 daughters that are, in their 20s, and they can't really afford a house in Milton now, and it's distressing. I think that there has been some improvement in getting more developments going, like the one we have on Granite Ave in East Milton, and then the one that's happening in East Milton. Some of those units will open up. I do believe that we will need a compliant plan for the MBTA Communities Act. I think that that would be useful in trying to bring some more units. I'm in favor of the overlay district for East Milton that was recently promoted by the state consulting agency. We had a hearing on that, and it was a well-regarded plan. So that will help bring some units. There's also the idea of having units that are put on lots with houses. I forget the name of that program, but that's something that many cities are doing, and we can look into that, the ancillary kind of unit that's added. But I think that there are areas of town that we can look at to see if we can do some zoning to try to create some more opportunities for house building and home building. And when I was in Watertown, we rezoned the whole community to do that. And that's what I would look forward to do.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Ms. Musto, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think I see this as a problem too. I have 2 young sons that would love to live in Milton, and it is super expensive. I think with affordability, I would like to see some of the projects that we have going in have more affordability in them. So we have a 10%. I would like to see us push that up to 20% required when some of these developers are building in our town. I think that would help. And I think we do have some units that are coming on, but certainly not enough. I think we have an affordable housing trust. I would love to see if they would purchase some smaller properties perhaps and try to make a few units here and there so that we can start, enhancing that in neighborhoods as well, some smaller developments. But really, I think, again, we have some developments that are going on We have a few 40Bs and things like that, but the amount of affordability, I would like to see that raised, and try to work with the planning board on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mesto. Mr. Daly, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is a great question, and I think to first frame this is that this is not a Milton-specific problem. This is a nationwide, a statewide issue, and this is part of the reason for the MBTA Communities Act in changing our zoning and also allowing for more units. So where are we with this, and how does Milton actually bring in more units? I think we've had options, and we have been hesitant to really build. The changing our zoning, promoting spaces where we can have affordable homes, perhaps the town farm. That is an option. When I go around and I knock doors and I talk to folks, I hear the stories of older people who have moved to Milton, who are looking to be here for their families and their grandchildren, and they want smaller units. We need a larger diversity of housing, not only giant mini mansions, but also condos, also two families, also duplexes. And I think we need to be working with our planning board in really setting out a plan for where and when do we build these units, how do we build in affordability in the units, and also do we have dispensations for perhaps our public workers? Do we have spaces for teachers who work in Milton? Do we have spaces for our public workers who are not making the entry fee of $1 million into Milton at 8% interest currently, which makes it very difficult for anyone to move in? My home does not exist anymore at the price at which I bought in. And so we have to be very mindful that we have local control and the ability to set the affordability and the amount of units that are there. This is within Milton's control, and we should be moving forward with that with a very coherent plan that we are actually executing on, not just putting down on paper.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Ms. Hegarty, you have the floor.
Thank you. So in order to make Milton more livable, without a doubt, we need more supply of housing, and we need to have more housing that is affordable. And we need housing for all of our residents, whether they're families or seniors. We need more supply. So we need to be creative, and we need to be open when opportunities for more housing come online. And too often we make it difficult for builders to build. Too often we don't have an open mind, and we shoot projects down. So we need the government leadership who will work with both folks in the community and with developers to get these things built in a way that works for our neighborhoods. In addition to making Milton more livable, I think we need to broaden the tax base, because not only are our house prices high, but there's a lot of people when I'm on the doors who are talking about how much they're paying in residential property tax. So we have to have some commercial tax base that comes along with the residential.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Ms. Mesto. Ms. Carroll, you have the floor.
So do you support question 1, the $9.5 million override for the town and school budget for fiscal year 2026? Is that specific? And what factors went into your decision?
I want to start off by saying that last year, when the schools were in a tough situation, I was one who sat on the board with a different select board and did advocate that we should have an override. My colleagues didn't feel that we needed it at that point in time, and we used the free cash to cover that. This year is a different situation. The schools have told us what they need, and we certainly, we don't want to lose services for the kids in the schools. We have a lot of needs in the schools and the town side as well. So, that went into my decision making, and I voted to put it on the ballot. So, certainly it was a tough decision, and it's going to be a kind of decision that goes out to the voters. It'll be hard for some. But the other thing that I did with that decision is I also coupled that with what I'm hearing at the doors and what I've heard from residents, that they would like more accountability. And so how did we get there? How do we get there? And how do we go forward without having to ask again in a year or two for another potential override? And so with that being said, I had advocated that we also do some kind of a financial evaluation and audit so that we regain the trust of people in this community, because people want to vote for something that they believe in, and we have lost trust in a portion of the residents, and I think it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Mr. Daly, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, I unequivocally support this override. I think to Mrs. Zoll's question when she spoke of the rise of $650,000 to $1 million, that speaks to the rise in cost, and that is the cost that our schools face. Rise in transportation, rise in special education costs, rise in out-of-district placements and in those costs. I do believe that our schools are the biggest, most important, and most successful business in town, and that we should be investing in this business. I encourage everyone to go look at MHS Senior Plans on Instagram and see where our students are going to school. See what our community coming together and investing in our young people looks like. I want us all to think about what the town would be if we live in a space where we have an underfunded school and we lose 66 full-time employees. Is that the space where we want to live? Is that the place where we bought our homes, where we brought our young families and our children? I do not believe that is. I think we are all accepting in that we are willing to take this short-term pain for the long-term success of our kids. And we want to live in a town where our young people can thrive. And with that, I also agree that we need to do a bit of our fiduciary responsibility. Are there places where we are duplicative in our expenses? Are there places where we can be more efficient, more streamlined, where we can work with our school committee and think about the ways that we can not only fund our schools, but that we are sending the tax dollars to the right places for the right outcomes?
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Ms. Hegarty, you have the floor.
Thanks. So I support an override, but I also want to say that regardless of whether this override passes, we are in for a difficult 5 years as a town. The override is a level service override. We have a lot coming on the horizon. We also have union contracts that are up for negotiation soon. And every day that goes by when I watch what's happening with the economy, with the federal government, I wonder whether it's just a matter of time before some of those impacts start to be felt by cities and towns in the Commonwealth. So, and when I'm on the doors, I talk to many young parents like myself who bought at the height of the market, and who are saying, do we have to move now? Are our schools going to be funded? Because if we're not funding our schools, I have to move. And at the same time, too, I see a lot of seniors who worry about being able to afford this. And I think there's a combination of, we have to look at revenue coming in, and we have to look at our expenses very carefully. We need to do both, and we need to do it responsibly. And I think I can help with that.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. Mr. Hogan, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And yes, I do support the override. And how did I reach my decision? I listened very carefully to Mr. Milano when he presented the budget and the forecasting to the select board meeting a few weeks ago. And sadly, Milton has the reliance on the residential tax base, as mentioned before, that we don't really have a big commercial base. And I participated in several overrides in the past, two for the school building committee and one school operating override when I was on the school committee. And it's very important to know why you're asking and what you're asking for, and be able to look forward into the future. And as I talked a little bit about, I've been here since 1995, but I was the head of the government of Watertown, and there we never had an override. We never needed an override because we had so much commercial industry. And there's some negative effects with that. We had a lot of truck traffic problems, semi-truck problems in that community because it's different. But with Milton, this override is necessary, and then what's needed is to plan the future, to not have to run into a situation where we're falling behind and we're doing overrides when we haven't forecasted well enough. I'm also for expanding the commercial base so that we can have more a broader tax base that's spread out a little bit to the other industries. I think I've run out of time. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. The next question will be from Mr. Gomes, and it will be first asked to Mr. Daly. Mr. Gomes, you have the floor.
Thank you. The override vote at the end of April will have long-term consequences on Milton and Milton Public Schools. However, this override is not unique to Milton. It will be one of the override votes in many communities around Boston. So what should the Select Board do at a small and large scale to expand the tax base and reform the town's finances so that the community doesn't need to rely on these life-altering overrides?
All right, great question, thank you. I think it's been said by everyone here that we need to expand our tax base, and that goes into long-term planning. We're probably not going to be able to turn our commercial taxes around in 2 years, but having that plan in place where we are being a place where businesses can start and can thrive and will be here for the next 20 or 30 years is incredibly important. And I think we've all been talking about planning, not only for now, but for 3, 5, and 10 years down the line. We're speaking about our tax base, how we use that tax base, and how it is funneled into our schools. I think there's also a conversation to be had with our finance committees. The Select Board works with the school committee, works in our finance committee, speaking about what are we spending on, how are we spending it, not only talking about our revenues, but also our expenses and forecasting that ahead. We don't want to be here in 2 or 3 years from now, right? We don't want to always be chasing this and having to go above and beyond Prop 2.5. Milton does want to be self-sustaining. And how do we build that, right? What are things that we don't know? I think the Select Board needs to empower a bit more the town administrator about being creative, about how we generate revenues, how we attract business, and where do we zone for this business. I think the East Milton overlay, which was stated by Mr. Hogan, was a great plan, and that's been rolled out. But we've had great plans rolled out before, and we have not executed them. So now it's about execution. Now it's about us actually rolling up our sleeves and getting the job done to serve our taxpayers and change that tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Ms. Hegarty, you have the floor.
Okay. So I think that as a town, we have to pursue revenue everywhere that we can. I think that we need to reconvene the Finance Committee. I think that the Planning Board, as the department that has the biggest impact on our revenue, needs to be involved regularly in conversations. And I think the School Committee, which is one of our biggest expense sources, needs to also be involved, along with the town administrator and the Select Board. I agree that forecasting on a 5-year basis so that we can plan out our budgets and mitigate any risks in the present year's budget is important. I think that we need to pursue any commercial development we can at a soft scale is necessary. So thinking creatively about where to get more commercial in, by also having our planning department support small businesses and recruit and pursue more economic development activities, similar to what I did with Mayor Marty Walsh. I think we also need that Finance Committee to take a hard look with the Board of Assessors on pilot payments to look deeply at where we can offset some costs with our institutions. And I think we have to go after all sources of funds and grants, including those from the state, and that's why we have to fix the situation with the MBTA Communities Act.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. Mr. Hogan, you have the floor.
Yeah, as I was stating before, whatever we can do to improve the commercial base will assist us in trying to gain greater revenue. And you know, I came here in '95. It's maybe hard to hear, but things are actually better commercially than it was in 1995. We didn't have what we have in Central Square, and we didn't have the restaurants that we have in East Milton. East Milton was not a destination. I mean, the tax base was even more residential than it is now. So we need to resurge those efforts and do a little bit better job. I mean, one of the things about the East Milton Overlay District, and it's maybe important for listeners to understand, is that we're going to build 3 stories, but we want the first story to be commercial to kind of expand the base. The project that we have that's going up in East Milton, there's not going to be any commercial piece to that. It's just going to be 100 units of housing. The district didn't get there in time. So that's one of the things that needs to do. And I agree with Ms. Haggerty that the pilots, the payment in lieu of taxes, that Milton Academy, Curry College, these places, we could probably sit with their leaders and say, listen, you're here in a great town, and I don't think the payments that you're making are enough for the community. What can we do to try to work on that together to make that improvement? I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Ms. Musto, you have the floor.
Thank you. So years ago, I actually was on the pilot committee, subcommittee, many years ago, and we still have that committee. But we do get some payments, and not nearly enough for the use of the services, because oftentimes these nonprofits that we have in town, they do give us funds, which is great, but there's a lot of use to police and fire in particular. And so it would be helpful if we got a little bit more there. We also have permit fees. So we have permit fees in anything from the Board of Health to the building department. Building department raises a lot of money in fees for the town. So I think looking at all of the fees on every department to see if we're where we should be, if we could increase those fees a little bit, I think every little bit would help. I think smart growth in areas where we could add some commercial, I think is great. We're a little limited, for instance, in Milton, where 22% of our land is DCR and the Blue Hills. So, and that's why we're pretty heavily, residential. But we could add a little bit of commercial in key spots that would help offset that, and better planning, better 5-year planning, and looking at things financially month to month instead of waiting till things are sort of out of hand to see how we can correct. And those would pretty much be the things that I would say. I was just looking, I wrote down a few notes while we were saying this, and just better communication amongst departments to see where they're at. So then we'd have an idea if somebody really, in the hole at some point, or do they have an access they could help? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. The final question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Ms. Hegarty. Ms. Carroll, you have the floor.
What is the best path forward for the town in regards to the MBTA Communities Act compliance at this point?
So for me, I think, in my opinion, I think the best path forward is to successfully negotiate in good faith with the Commonwealth. I think that we, I think that we have had opportunities in the past to do so. I think that the planning board and the select board had a lot of time in the lead up to the plan that went forward at the end of 2023. I think that there was a lot of opportunity to ask questions of the state, and that they weren't necessarily asked. And I think that the best way forward is to negotiate and not litigate.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty. Mr. Hogan, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm aware that the planning board is in the process of working on a compliant plan, and I believe that we have until July. And I think I agree that we should negotiate with the government, with the state, the MBTA and the Attorney General and the Governor's office to come up with a compliant plan. But we need to have a plan that's really suitable for Milton. And I think the last plan kind of put too much burden on East Milton. One of the things too that I was retained by 24 businesses, mostly from Milton, but other communities, and I filed an amicus brief on the MBTA Communities Act, mainly because the act did not follow the procedure of conducting an economic analysis and also a small business assessment. And that brief was quoted by the Supreme Judicial Court as being correct, and that's why they stated that the regulations were not promulgated properly. The governor turned around after that and issued an emergency declaration to avoid doing a small business impact and an economic impact. I am for more housing around the Communities Act. I was involved in the South Coast Rail, helping build the stations and helping do the utility relocations down there. I know the importance of that. But there's a question of whether or not we are a subway station community. What's the appropriate community that we are? And I think that if I get a chance, I would try to negotiate a good plan for Milton with the state on the act. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Ms. Musto, you have the floor.
Thank you. We have always wanted to work with the state from day number one since I've been on the board. We have tried to work with the state. We have stated that. We're currently trying to negotiate with the state. We just want a plan that's fair for the residents. And classifying us as rapid transit for a trolley that holds, that you may remember had that underwater rescue with 6 residents or 6 people and the conductor as rapid transit, it doesn't seem like the right classification for us. And that hasn't been decided yet, really. And unfortunately, what happened was we ended up having to go to court for this MBTA Communities Act. Instead of the state trying to work with us, they went to court with us. We still are trying to work with them. We want to do our part, but we want to be treated fairly and fairly for our residents. And always happy to try to do that. So I would still want to work with the state on that one. And we are trying to do that. I can't really divulge all of the details because some of it has been executive session on that. But it is important that we do have some housing, and we're willing to do that, but just fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Mr. Daly, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, I live on Elliott and Capon Street, right at the top of the Capon Street stop on the trolley. So I know how often that trolley is used. It is the way a lot of our students go to BC High. It's the way residents head into Boston for work. I use it often. And I think our way forward with the MBTA Communities Act is to get in compliance so that we can still go to the negotiating table with the state in saying that we are in compliance. This is where we will zone. This is what Milton's willing to do. We've also the planning board has a new plan that has us in compliance and has reduced the burden on East Milton Square by, I think, at least 500 units. So I would love to see that presented to the town as well. I think being in compliance does not stop our negotiation. I think we've seen that with a few other towns who have been in compliance not only with the MBTA Communities Act, but also with their affordable housing and the ability they've had with the state to speak about what is unique about their towns. Milton has a lot of unique features. We're surrounded by the Blue Hills, spaces that are unbuildable, conservation land. We are directly next to Boston. And I think we can also, with the compliant plan, talk to the state about why are the stations along the trolley not being taken care of. There are at least 2 spots that have been under repair, in disrepair, and abandoned for the last 3 to 5 years. Is that because the trolley goes to Mattapan Square and they do not care about the residents of Mattapan Square the way they would in other neighborhoods? That is not fair. But I think for Milton to have these arguments and continue to negotiate, we must first come to the state with good faith and say we are compliant and this is what we're willing to do, and we ask that you give us dispensations for what is unique about Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. That concludes our Select Board Forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be first Mr. Daly, then Mr. Hogan, then Ms. Musto, and finally Ms. Haggerty. Mr. Daly, you may begin.
I didn't feel random. I'll say first, I'll be brief in this. First, I want to thank all the candidates that are up here. In running for this is not easy. We take a lot of time away from our families, a lot of time away from our jobs, and we do it because of how much we care about this space that we live in, how much we care about this community. And win, lose, or draw, I don't think you lose any of us as great community members. I will say for myself, I'm an immigrant to this country. And when you're an immigrant to this country, you spend a lot of time building community. You spend a lot of time learning about the space in which you live now and how you can give back. And I'm forever thankful for this country that I live in now and this town that I live in now. And I believe in service and leadership, and that is why I'm running for the Select Board. I'm here because I care about not just my family, but about the families of everyone here. And I want to be here 30 and 40 years from now, speaking about the great things we did when I was on the Select Board, looking ahead, thinking about funding our schools. This is about leadership and proactivity for me. We must set the vision and mission. We cannot sit passively. And so I ask for your vote on April 29th.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Next, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you. As I indicated, I've been able to raise 4 daughters here through the Milton Public Schools. It's been a great experience, and I operate my law firm. I'm mostly involved in construction law, working with contractors. And I love my business here and raising my children in Milton. It means a lot to me. And I think that as I've had the experience of serving on local boards here, I was chair of the Capital Committee here, and I was chair of the school committee here, and I served on the school building committee for 10 years here. I think that I can bring sort of that kind of experience to these problems. The other thing is that I'm an independent mind. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent. And I like to listen to everybody. I like to get views from all the different parts of the community and the different sides, and then evaluate, taking in all the information that's available and making the best decision for the town, and not thinking about ideology, but just what is best for Milton. And I appreciate your vote on the 29th of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Next, Ms. Musto.
Thank you. Thank you again to those tuning in or who will watch the recording afterwards. I've centered my work on the Select Board around transparency in decision-making, responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and incorporating the viewpoints and perspectives of all stakeholders. Our town faces challenges, and it takes steady, trustworthy leadership to ensure that we will address these challenges in a way that fosters community, trust, and buy-in, and that maintains the town's appeal as one of the best places to make a home, raise a family, and establish roots. Milton is such a special town, from its rich history to its beautiful green space, to its proximity to Boston, to its excellent schools, to its diverse neighborhoods. I'm asking you for your support so that we can keep Milton one of the best towns to live in. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Lastly, Ms. Hegarty.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here tonight. It was great to share our viewpoints, and I'm running for Select Board because I believe that Milton deserves leadership that listens to all sides, whether you live in East Milton or West Milton or whatever part of Milton. Leaders who act and are decisive and deliver results. I mentioned before, this is a pivotal moment in time for our town. We have serious decisions coming up over the next 5 years. We need people who are professionals and who are skilled at delivering the types of decisions and services to our town. We need leaders who can thoughtfully guide our growth and who understand that the budget they manage is a reflection of our values, and it only works if it works for you. I hope to have your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hegarty, and thank you to all our candidates. Please give us a moment while we set up for our moderator forum. Thank you.
Welcome to our moderator candidates. We will begin with the incumbent, Mr. Hiss. Bob Hiss has served as a town moderator since 2016 after serving as a town meeting member and member of the Town Government Study Committee. Since 1998, he and his wife Mary have lived in Milton where they have raised their 3 children who all attended the public schools. He recently retired from Assessors where he led their $2 billion international software products business. Welcome, Mr. Hiss. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you to both Milton Cable Access and to the high school debate team and the Milton Times. So again, my name is Bob Hiss. I've been your town moderator for 9 years, since 2016. As the statement said, my wife and I moved to Milton in 1998. Our 3 kids all attended the Milton Public Schools. Our oldest and his wife are captains in the Air Force. Our daughter is a financial analyst, and our youngest is a graduating senior at Virginia Tech. When I ran 9 years ago, I put a statement out in the Milton scene, and I just wanted to say, here's what I said I would do. And I'll quote 3 things. Manage our town meetings to provide an open forum for its members to speak while respecting the time of those in attendance. And the result of that is I implemented the consent agenda, one of the first things I did, enabling members to pass up to half the articles with 1 vote so we could focus time on the more substantive items that can pass up to 26 items. Second, I said, recruit qualified members for our many committees, such as the Warrant Committee, Audit Committee, and the Fire Station Building Committee, to bring diverse and balanced experiences to the table. So as a result, the Warrant Committee is, from a political standpoint, is 40% unenrolled, 38% Democrat, 9% Republican, 12% other, 38% women, 62% men, and that's over the 65 people I've appointed. And lastly, use my innovation and creativity to increase member understanding of articles, increase use of technology to improve the meeting experience. I implemented electronic voting. I designed the process to carry us through COVID, and started the Milton Cable Access TV show to introduce the warrant to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hiss. Our next moderator candidate is Ms. Dillon. Liz Dillon is an attorney with nearly 15 years of experience. She was a civil litigator for the majority of her career before deciding to move in-house to Simmons University, where she currently serves in the general counsel role. Liz is a member of the Warrant Committee and is a Precinct 6 town meeting member, serves on the Cultural Council and the board of the East Milton Neighborhood Association, and is an active member of the Collycott PTO. Professionally, Liz is on the board of directors of the Massachusetts Women Bar Association and the co-chair of their in-house council division. She lives in Milton with her husband and their 2 children, and nearby her mom and dad, who also live in Milton. Welcome, Ms. Dillon. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Milton High debate team, and to Milton Access TV, and of course to the Milton Times. Again, my name is Liz Dillon, and I ask for your support and vote for the town moderator race on April 29th. As you mentioned, I am the mother of 2 young children, Randall, who is 7 and in 1st grade Collycott French, and Elaine, who is an upcoming kindergartner, also at Collycott. I am a wife, and I am the daughter of 2 parents who live in Milton and moved here to live closer to me and, to be honest, let's face it, their grandchildren. I am, as you mentioned, an attorney. I have nearly 15 years of experience, the vast majority of which is as a civil litigator, which means that I understand very clearly process, policy, and procedure, which means that I can run a good meeting. However, I also have a lot of experience with strategy, thinking multiple steps ahead. And as I think multiple steps ahead about what we need in a moderator, it's someone who can fill all of the committees, make sure that the committees meet regularly, are filled with people with relevant experience, and produce work product back to the town in a transparent way for all of you, because it's what you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. And now to begin the moderator forum. We will begin with a question from Mr. Gomes and will be asked first to Ms. Dillon and then Mr. Hiss. Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you. How would you work with the Select Board and other town officials to address important issues facing our community while maintaining the independence of your role as a moderator?
That's a great question, Mr. Gomes. So first of all, I've always wanted to be the moderator, and one of the reasons why is because I believe I have a unique skill set that would enable me to be able to do exactly that. One of the things that a litigator does is not only litigate, but because the vast majority of cases end in resolution or settlement, we're really good also at negotiating. So as an example of what I would like to see, recently in the warrant committee, we were discussing a town meeting article that many of you may have seen regarding one-day liquor licenses issued by the select board. And unfortunately, no one discussed ahead of time with the Board of Health, who then came in at the floor of town meeting raising their concerns. This was left in a great discussion in town meeting, which was really inefficient because a lot of this could have been dealt with ahead of time. So what I would do is really be in touch and understand, be connected with the various different voices in town and understand their perspectives so that as much as possible, we can negotiate these issues ahead of time, making sure that town meeting is run in a fair and efficient way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Mr. Hiss, you now have the floor.
I think it's very important for the moderator to not only appear independent of these issues, but to be independent of these issues. And to have a moderator that is going to insert themselves in whatever potentially benign way, I think threatens that independence. Both the citizens and the town meeting members are highly attuned to a sense of fairness happening at a town meeting. And I think it would be imprudent, and something I have steadfastly not done, is to insert myself in anything other than the process of how the items are going to get brought to town meeting. The only exception would be if there's something that's going to affect the process of town meeting itself. But otherwise, I think the moderator should stay really removed from these items because you don't want a moderator up there where anyone thinks they've got a dog in the fight or is tipping the scale one way or the other. So we have competent boards, they're elected by the citizens, they have jobs to do, and I think it's their job to go fulfill their role in the town government while the moderator stays out of all the policy and just focuses on the process really of town meeting.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Mr. Bowden and will be asked first to Mr. Hiss and then Ms. Dillon. Lawson, you have the floor.
In your opinion, what constitutes an effective warrant committee and how will you go about appointing qualified, competent individuals?
Yeah, good one. So most towns in the Commonwealth have a finance committee that just focuses on the budget. Milton is one of the few in the state that have a warrant committee, which looks at every single article that is in the warrant. And you can kind of summarize the breadth of the warrant as budgets, bylaws, and buildings, kind of the 3 Bs. So it's more than just finance. So as an example, I do have finance people that are on it, and I brought some names with me today. For example, Lori Connolly is a director of finance with Fidelity Investments and MetLife. Or Peter Maughan, a former senior vice president with John Hancock, Fidelity, First Commerce Bank. Jay Funling is an actuary and a billing analyst with Eversource, and there's others. So that's one. But I also have, you have education issues that come before the warrant. You have health issues that come before the warrant. John Driscoll I appointed to the committee, and capital items like trucks and heavy equipment comes before the warrant committee, and John runs one of the big landscaping businesses here in town. So it takes a broad range of skills to fulfill it. Now what I do in order to go find people is I look at what I call the 5 Ps. It is the person, it's the precinct, it's the personality, it's the profession, and it is their party. And I look for balance across all of those. So men and women, diversity of skills, representation from all the precincts, and balance in the political party, and people that have worked in groups together so they can form an effective committee as a group.
Thank you, Mr. Hiss. Ms. Dillon, you now have the floor.
Thank you. You heard Moderator Hiss mention the 5 Ps, one of which is politics. I think that in the nonpartisan warrant committee appointed by the nonpartisan moderator, politics should have no role. I don't have 5 Ps, I have 1, professionalism. And I would lead also with experience. I want to make sure that there are no quotas for who has to be picked for the warrant committee, but rather choose the people that are the best for the town. We have so much talent in this town, especially when you look at all of the candidates here tonight. And I know you've heard some of them speak and you'll hear more. We have so much talent in this town. If we start with experience, we can have a diverse body, but also make sure that it's one that's going to be effective. In addition, when appointing members to any committee, I would make sure that that appointment process is transparent. I want to see the applications put online. I want to see criteria that's clear. I want to know who was picked, who wasn't picked, and why. And I think everyone in Milton deserves that level of transparency as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Ms. Dillon and then Mr. Hiss. Ms. Carroll, you have the floor.
How do you or will you moderate civil discourse in passionate times?
Thank you. You know, the thing about that is that you're right. There is a lot of division in the town right now. I think that it starts from the top. I think that the moderator has to show respect for all of the diverse voices in town and make sure that everyone's voice is heard. I have seen a lot of divisiveness in town meeting, and it's not from one side or the other, but it's really throughout town meeting. One minor change that I would make in order to be able to address this problem is if you watched the town meeting, there were people, again, on both sides or all different perspectives, who turned around and shouted into town meeting and were addressing other members of the body by name and cross-referencing each other. That is inappropriate. People should address their remarks always to the moderator. That kind of division is very easy to cure. Surprisingly, it is. If you look at a judge, they are able to control that courtroom. With nearly 15 years of experience as an attorney, the vast majority of which is as a civil litigator, I have that experience to be able to hold the room. And I will not tolerate, and that is my promise to you, I will not tolerate that kind of inappropriate behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Mr. Hiss, you now have the floor.
My approach has been to take fairly light reins on town meeting, because unlike an open town meeting where each citizen is speaking for themselves, in a representative model in Milton, each of the elected members are speaking for 70 other citizens. So if they're doing their job, they should be speaking for a wide variety of people that put them in that office, and that means we're going to hear a wide variety of opinions. Now, in the last few years, I think some of the discourse we see in social media has now crept into the public forum. And as a member of the Massachusetts Moderator Association, this is something we discuss on a regular basis. And you're constantly walking the fine line of people who were elected to be able to speak for those 70 individual residents and the 2,000 people in their precinct versus managing with a firm hand and trying to clamp down on discussion. Now, I think because that discourse has started to creep in and our meetings have become somewhat more rambunctious, it'll require a little more care in terms of keeping people focused with a sense of courtesy. But I think clamping down and being an iron fist in town meeting is the wrong approach for representative town meetings like Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Hiss. The final question will be from Ms. Jane and will be asked first to Mr. Hiss and then Ms. Dillon. Penelope, you have the floor.
What is currently happening in town meeting that you think could be changed or improved, and what are your plans to do so?
There are a couple things coming, and I'll talk about a little bit about this in my closing. But there's generative AI technology is something that's going to change every single knowledge worker job in the world. And the representative town meeting members and the members of all the committees that produce articles in the warrant and the warrant committee itself, I think have an opportunity to benefit from that. For example, could generative AI summarize the warrant in 2 pages for the citizens so it could be easy to understand? Could it take one of these planning board articles that can be 10 or 15 pages long and again summarize some of the issues pro and con so that an individual citizen can understand what's going on? So I think the use of technology could help prepare the town meeting members to be better informed of some of the issues, So when amendments arise, they could understand how the amendments fit in context. It could also help the citizens understand the impact of what these decisions are going to be so that they become better informed citizens and are more supportive of the ultimate decisions town meeting makes.
Thank you, Mr. Hiss. Ms. Dillon, you have the floor.
Thank you. So before I focus on what I would change long-term down the road, thinking about things like technology used in that way, which I think is an interesting idea, I first want to focus on shoring up some of the issues with the town meeting that we have. One thing that I really want to change, I already touched on, which is the lack of efficiency. Town meeting just isn't efficient. It's not. I've spent a long time talking to town moderators from other towns, and their town meetings run much less long and are many fewer days. It is not accessible to people with young children who have to go home and relieve the babysitter. It is not accessible to people like my parents who are seniors and would like to participate in town meeting, but simply can't because it goes on for too long. In talking to these additional moderators from other towns and reviewing the bylaws of other towns and watching town meetings from other towns, I have learned that even simple measures, not complicated, but simple measures can make a huge difference in terms of efficiency. For example, we have 3 microphones in the front of town meeting. One can be for yes, one can be for no, and one can be for questions. If there are 30 people lined up for no and nobody lined up for yes, it might be time to consider asking the body whether they're ready to take a vote. We don't necessarily need all 30 people to repeat the same opinion. I would also include a stopwatch so that people can tell how long they're talking, and that is transparent. And I would make sure that we hew closely to the scope of the article at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. That concludes our moderator forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Mr. Hiss and then Ms. Dillon. Mr. Hiss, you have the floor.
Thank you again for the time to speak here today. So again, I mentioned some of the things I've accomplished in my years as moderator. I wanted to speak to some of the things I'd like to do in a next term. The first is to work on that, controlling that rambunctiousness I mentioned amongst our members. And that's going to require a delicate balance between allowing members to speak since they were elected to do so and ensuring we have courtesy amongst the members. Second, leverage that use of generative AI technology to help prepare for the meeting and help members understand the impact of the warrants. And third, I think a major thing that's going to hit us is something called a hybrid town meeting. There are bills before the legislature, both in the House and the Senate right now, that are going to, if passed, permit members to be at home and in the auditorium. And that's going to require an entire new design process for a town meeting that we're not prepared for, from either technology or process standpoint. So, as a systems guy, I've done that my whole career. I'm ready to do that now, and I ask for your vote on April 29th.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates. And please give us a moment while we set up for our Board of Assessors forum.
Point of order?
Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that.
I never get to say that, right?
Ms. Dillon, you now have 60 seconds for your final.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Liz Dillon, and I humbly ask for your vote to be the next moderator of Milton, Massachusetts on April 29th. Listen, a lot of people have asked me, why do you want to be the moderator? And are you sure that's a job that you want to do? I was made to do this job. I know that it's a huge time commitment. I already commit a huge amount of my time to this town. As Ms. Soul mentioned, I am a member of the Warrant Committee. I am a member of the Milton Cultural Council. I am a member of Precinct 6 Town Meeting. I am on the board of the East Milton Neighborhood Association. And I am a very active member in the Collie Cup PTO. Why do I devote so much time to this town? It's because I know who's watching. It's those little children that I mentioned first. My daughter recently took her little toy plastic purse, put it over her shoulder, and said, "Mommy, I'm going to my meeting." It's because she was imitating me, because that's what I say. And that's why I do it, because they're watching. I'm doing it for my children, yours, you, and all of Milton. So please, I humbly ask for your vote on April 29th for Liz Dillon for Town Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Please give us a moment while we set up for our Board of Assessors forum.
Well done.
Thank you, Bob.
Welcome to our Board of Assessor candidates. Today we learned that Mrs. Ruxdalis is ill and unable to attend this evening. We have a statement that she sent in that we will read on her behalf. Mr. Bennett is here this evening and will answer a few questions. I will now read Mr. Bennett's bio. Bill Bennett. Sorry. Wait, do I start from the top? Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Welcome to our Board of Assessor candidates. Today, we learned that Mrs. Ruxdalis is ill and is unable to attend this evening. We have a statement that she sent in that we will read on her behalf. Mr. Bennett is here this evening and will answer a few questions. I will now read Mr. Bennett's bio. Bill Bennett and his wife, Maura, have lived in Milton for 24 years and have raised 2 boys. In addition to serving on the Board of Assessors for the past 13 years, he is also a town meeting member in Precinct 6. He is a Massachusetts certified real estate appraiser for over 40 years and has worked with the FHA, HUD, many municipalities, as well as lending institutions. He served on the Milton Youth Hockey Board of Directors for many years and coached youth hockey and baseball for over 12 years. Welcome, Mr. Bennett. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Good evening. Thank you, Milton Times and Milton Debate Team and Milton Access TV for this time. I'll keep it short because I know I'm the only person here tonight for the assessors, and I know the school committee wants to get going. So just to follow up, we moved to Milton 24 years ago. My wife is a longtime Milton resident. We do have 2 boys, Brian and Will, that went through the Milton Public School system. I will give a shout out to my youngest son, Will. His 21st birthday is today. He's not going to watch this, but at least maybe the recording. So I have been a real estate appraiser for over 40 years, dealing in residential real estate valuation. I was elected to the board 13 years ago, and I think I'm a perfect fit for that. Obviously, being a real estate appraiser for that long, and I've experienced and I've valued many kinds of property, from lower end properties to very high end complex properties. I've transitioned my career from appraising the real estate to one of now reviewing real estate for several lenders. So I have worked with the select board on many different items. A few years ago, we passed a senior tax deferral plan, which allows the senior citizens to stay in their house a little longer, deferring their taxes till they sell the property. So I think that's enough for now. If you guys want to ask some questions, we'll get going.
Thank you, Mr.
School
Bennett.
committee's waiting.
I will now read Mrs. Ruxdalis' statement. My name is Nicole Boyson Ruxdalis, and I'm running for the Board of Assessors. I am a professor of finance and department chair at Northeastern University, where I have worked for 21 years. I am the first woman to be named a full professor in the finance department at Northeastern. I hold a PhD in finance with a minor in economics from The Ohio State University. I am also the co-editor of the Financial Analysis Journal and a principal at Longview Investment Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Prior to academia, I worked as a CPA in public accounting and banking for 8 years. I am a Milton mom of 2 teens. I have subbed numerous times at Pierce Middle School, and I am the treasurer and a trustee at the United Congregational Church in Milton. Having served as the treasurer for several campaigns, including the current override campaign, I have become more and more interested in serving the town in an elected capacity. The Board of Assessors, which is responsible for overseeing the work of the town assessors and works closely with other financial leaders of the town, is a great fit for my skill set, experience, and attention to detail. Importantly, I consider this role to be a non-partisan position that does not favor or benefit one party over another. These can come from 2 sources. One is state and other grants that the town may be eligible for, and the other is the town's pilot, Payment in Lieu of Taxes program, which encourages nonprofit entities to voluntarily contribute to the town's revenue. I plan to work with the town's financial leaders to ensure that the town is maximizing revenue from other sources and to reactivate the pilot subcommittee to ensure that no money is left on the table. And I hope that I can count on your vote on April 29th. And now a few questions for Mr. Bennett. We will begin with a question from Ms. Carroll.
Could you explain the means-tested tax break for seniors?
I'm sorry, say that again, the means tested?
Yes.
Well, just past the
Yes.
town meeting? So the select board and the town administrator wanted to match what the state offers. So what they're going to do, they haven't decided how much that exemption is going to be yet. It's still a little fuzzy. But the seniors will be able to, it'll work like the circuit breaker law in Massachusetts. You have to be eligible for the circuit breaker law. You have to meet the residential incomes and your property value. And then the select board will determine what that exemption will be. That has nothing to do with the assessors. Right now, that will not be funded, so that will be proportionally spread out to all the taxpayers. Will cover that exemption.
The next and last question will be from Mr. Bodwin.
How do you plan to address concerns from residents about rising property taxes and their impact on affordability?
So the assessors really don't have any way of stopping the rising property values. That's based upon the people that move into the town and the prices that they pay for property. So there's really no way for us to control that. We have to value the property at the full, fair cash value based upon the guidelines that the Department of Revenue set down for us. So we don't have any real control. In order to get more affordable housing, that's going to be something that the Select Board and the Planning Board are going to have to put into place. They're going to have to do something to arrange for that. So we don't really have any way of adjusting for that. We do have ways of helping the senior citizens. There are several exemption programs that they can use. I mentioned earlier the tax deferral program, which we got the minimum income, the maximum income raised from $57,000, which was sort of ridiculous in Milton, up to $93,000. So what that allows the seniors to do is to defer a portion or all of their real estate taxes for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever they feel they need to do to be able to stay in their property. And then the town will get that money back when they sell their property. And the town does put 4% common interest on top of that. We've gone from having about 4 or 5 seniors participate in that up to about maybe 10 or 12 right now. The problem with it is the seniors get a little nervous because there's a lien put on their property by the treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
You're welcome.
That concludes our Board of Assessors forum. We will now hear a closing statement from Mr. Bennett.
So I just want to say again, I'm very qualified for this position. I've been doing it for 13 years. We've worked with the Select Board. We've worked with the Council on Aging to sponsor information seminars at least twice a year to give the seniors more information on the exemptions that are available to them, whether it's through the state of Massachusetts or through the town. All of these state exemptions are all backed up by the town. Backed up by the state. The town is reimbursed for them. We also work with the Council on Aging to do the work-off program, where seniors can get up to $2,000 off their real estate taxes. You probably will see them if you go into Town Hall. You might see them in the front lobby or in one of the offices. And the Board of Assessors covers that with our overlay money. So that the town does not lose that money. We pay for that program to assist the Council on Aging. So again, I humbly ask for your vote on April 29th for another 3-year term. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates, and please give us a moment while we set up for our final forum of the evening, Candidates for School Committee.
Thank you.
Welcome to our school committee candidates. We will begin with their bios. First, Ms. Varghese. Anna Varghese is deeply dedicated to her role as a member of the Milton School Committee. When she first ran 3 years ago, her platform was grounded in 3 core values: strong academics, community engagement, and empowering our teachers. She believes that the foundation of a great education lies in collaboration and mutual respect, and she's committed to ensuring our students have the best possible outcome. Over the course of her time on the school committee, Anna has always prioritized doing what's right, even when the decisions haven't been the easiest. She continues to work tirelessly to provide the stability and support our schools and families need to succeed and grow. Welcome, Ms. Varghese. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you to Milton Access TV, the MHS debate team, and the Milton Times for having me here this evening. My name is Anna Varghese, and I proudly serve on the Milton School Committee. I work as the creative director for an experiential marketing firm. When I first ran for school committee, my platform was built around 3 core values: fostering strong academics, increasing community involvement, and empowering our teachers to focus on what they do best. I am committed to offering the stability and continuity that our schools and our families need to thrive, and I will continue to work hard to support them in every way I can. My husband John and I have called Milton our home since 2007, and together we're proud parents of 2 amazing young women, Rachel, who's 14, and Isabel, who's 13. I truly believe that through collaboration and respect, we can work together to continue to provide an incredible educational experience for every student in our town. Throughout my time on the school committee, I've been guided by my moral compass, listening to all perspectives and making decisions based on what is right, even when those decisions aren't the easiest or most popular. I am committed to supporting our teachers. They are the heartbeat of our district, and their work is invaluable. As I have for the past 3 years, I will continue advocating for the resources and strategies that have the greatest impact on our students and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Caldwell. Cherise Caldwell is a Milton School Committee candidate who brings a fresh perspective and a strong background in the for-profit technology sector. With experience in finances, project management, hiring, and team building, Cherise is well equipped to apply her skills in collaboration and strategic planning to support Milton's schools. She is committed to fostering an inclusive, forward-thinking educational environment where all students have opportunities and access to a quality education. Welcome, Ms. Caldwell. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you. So thank you to Milton Access, thank you to Milton Times, and to the members of the debate team. So managing a school district requires 2 modes of thinking. One is the long-term focus. So for me, that means focusing on the strength of academics, focusing on the mental health support for our students, and focusing on fostering positive school culture. And the other is a focus on dealing with immediate and critical issues that might pop up, like, for example, our budget issues and the search for a superintendent. I work in the for-profit tech sector, and in my leadership roles, I switch back and forth between both of these modes all the time. I anticipate needs and issues based on past data and planning. I work with other leaders on budgeting and finances, and on assessing candidates and their qualifications for filling open roles. I also help our team of engineers when something critical or urgent pops up. So for example, a systems failure or a production outage. I help resolve the issue, and I work on solutions to prevent a recurrence of the issue. So my experience, my professional experience, I think will be beneficial to the school committee, and I am ready to, as my teenager likes to say, lock in.
Thank you. Next, Mr. O'Neill. Dan O'Neill and his wife have 3 children: Vivian, a junior at the high school, Regina, a freshman, and George, a 6th grader at Pierce Middle School. The O'Neill family has lived in Milton for the past 15 years. Dan is a forensic accountant by profession and brings over 29 years of government auditing at the municipal, state, and federal levels. Currently, Dan is the Director of Compliance and Security at the Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, overseeing the anti-money laundering program. Welcome, Mr. O'Neill. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody. I echo my candidates here. I'll give them thanks. As just stated, My name is Dan O'Neill, and I'm running for one of the 2 open school committee spots this year. And I humbly ask for your vote. And you'll see why I'm going to earn it tonight. This is the 3rd time that I'm running for school committee. That's how much I believe that I have to offer, not only this town, but the schools themselves, as well as the students and the taxpayers. I'm a forensic accountant by trade. I worked 23 years auditing school districts, 40B construction projects, in municipality departments throughout the Commonwealth. I've also audited 40B developers, and I've returned with my team, when I was at the Inspector General's office, tens and tens of millions of dollars that were directly deposited into each town's affordable trusts. I'm also super excited to be here because the board that is consisted of now is primarily comprised of nonprofit professionals and educators. I'm an auditor. I'm a numbers guy. I would take that experience and I would apply it to the school committee day one. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final candidate, Mr. Hutto. Nathan Hutto is a longtime public leader, town meeting member, and current Chief Operating People Officer at the Trustees of Reservations, bringing over 20 years of leadership experience in the nonprofit sector. A proud Milton resident, he lives in East Milton with his wife Caitlin, an elementary school teacher, and their 2 daughters who attend Pierce and Collycott schools. Welcome, Mr. Hutto. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you to our hosts, and thank you to all of the Milton residents watching and who care so deeply about the results of this election. I'm Nathan Hutto, and I'm running for school committee. I'm running for school committee for 2 reasons. First, I care deeply about and invested deeply in the future of this town. Both of my children go to our schools at Pierce and Collycott. I own a home with my wife Caitlin. It's actually the home that she grew up in that we were fortunate to buy from her parents when they retired. And I'm on town meeting, where I get to be involved in the policies and future of the town. Second reason I'm running for school committee is because our schools are at a crossroads. I've talked to many residents around town when I've been out knocking doors, and people are worried about the finances, the superintendent, the facilities, and the quality of our academic programs. It can feel like this is a set of crises that we have to overcome, but let's not let a crisis go to waste. There's a gold mine of opportunity and an opportunity for all of us and for school committee to change the direction of our schools. I am a chief operating officer and a chief people officer, and I've been doing that work for years, managing budgets, leading teams, hiring leaders, and I want to bring that professional experience to our school committee so that we can get headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's begin the forum. We will start first with a question from Ms. Zoll, and will be asked first to Ms. Caldwell. Ms. Zoll, you have the floor.
How should Milton approach the hiring of our new superintendent? What are some qualities you all are looking for?
Thank you for the question. For hiring the superintendent, I think it should be a collaborative endeavor. So I think we should have the input of members of the community. And as far as what I'm looking for, transparency would be a huge one. I want someone who can foster a collaborative relationship with the stakeholders, so the principals, the teachers. I'm looking for someone with a strong finance background who understands budgeting. And it would be great to have someone who has experience managing a district that is going through some financial difficulties. Someone who's seen that before and navigated the complexities of that. Also someone who has experience with building a new school and dealing with overcrowding, I think would be great. And for me, lastly, but certainly not least important, would be someone who's dedicated to the academic excellence of a district, so who understands the importance of the students having access to the excellent resources and tools in order to achieve their goals, and also making sure that that is equitably accessible for all students in the district.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hutto.
Thank you. We have an opportunity to hire the chief executive of our district, and this will be the 6th or 7th superintendent in as many years. We need to hire a superintendent who is committed to our district for the long term and has the vision and capability to bring that vision to life. As a chief operating officer for many years, I've hired numerous senior leaders. I currently manage 10 vice presidents and have hired, managed, and evaluated a number of leaders across my career, including superintendents. And I intend to bring that experience to the school committee. There's 3 things I'm thinking about in how we hire the next superintendent. First, I want to hire somebody who has experience modernizing a school district like ours. Milton Public Schools offers great academic programming and school services, but we can do better. Second, I want to hire somebody who has strong financial capabilities and operational acumen and can really bring an academic vision to life for our schools and can adequately manage resources. Finally, I want somebody who has experience in Massachusetts working in a town like Milton and is comfortable navigating our public boards, our community, and the type of input that our residents expect to have in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you for the question. The ideal candidate would be somebody who has the experience in finance, who knows how to put together a budget, who would work with the school board, and someone who is not afraid to speak their mind. Somebody who is a strong leader, especially when the town, like Nate just mentioned, has gone through 5 different superintendents, assistant superintendents. You need somebody who is willing to fight for the students, and especially fighting for the special ed program. You also need somebody who's willing to call out other board members and not be intimidated by people on the school committee. Somebody who's going to challenge the school committee. And I think that with my experience working in the government areas here in the Commonwealth, I think that we can find that right person who's right for Milton. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Ms. Varghese.
So, I was actually part of this process when I first started on school committee 3 years ago. At the time, we were tasked with hiring a new superintendent. I felt at the time that we rushed the process and went straight into finding a new superintendent. I had recommended at the time that we hire an interim and take our time finding a new superintendent. But unfortunately, I didn't have the support on the board at the time. And I felt like we rushed through the process. And when interviewing, and I was on the screening committee for the new for our previous superintendent, and as much as I've heard my colleagues here on the candidate forum speak about all the great things that we have to look for in a superintendent, sometimes it's very hard to find that. And sometimes people look great on paper. The challenge is, what I would really like to see is not someone just who looks great on paper, but really who's someone who can lead and has had the experience of a sitting superintendent who's led a district and is not afraid to speak up and isn't afraid to lead. That is very hard to find. So I really want to make sure that this time around we take the time. I'm really excited that we have recently appointed an incredible interim superintendent who has a lot of the great qualities that I think Milton would really benefit from. And I hope to learn a lot from him, and I hope our committee learns a lot in terms of leadership and what we should really look for Milton specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Mr. Hutto.
Do you support the $9.5 million override for the town school budget, and what factors went into your decision?
Great question. I do support the override for our school, for our town, and for our school budget. And there are a number of factors that went into that decision. First of all, without an override, our schools are facing devastating cuts to staff and services. I think the latest number from the school committee is north of 75 positions being cut. That will be incredibly difficult for our schools in our district to bear. That includes both central office staff, which is already relatively lean, and staff across our schools, including over a dozen special education roles. That will result in really difficult degradation of services and learning opportunities for our students. The thing that the town needs to understand is that we didn't arrive here because of some misconduct. We didn't arrive here only because the school committee didn't fully manage the budget. We arrived here because of a systems failure across the town. A structural deficit at the town level that the school committee is undertaking, a revolving door of leaders, and a school committee and district leadership that didn't properly manage our budget. We have a chance with the override to fund level services and get back on track with our school operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, I support the override. It's a big number, $9.5 million. 5.7 of it is from the school department itself. And I'm not here to pile on and point fingers at people to blame for this override. I just think that there's been a huge lack of transparency in the budget itself and putting the budget together. And then also, either way, if this override goes for or if the town votes against it, going against the override is going to devastate children, especially those children that are they're in the special needs program, as well as students that are on the individual education plans. Even though you pass that override, we're still not going to be out of the woods yet. You're looking at making up approximately $3.5 million that the town has lent to the school department in order to patch the holes in their budget. Again, my theme here is you've got to have professional auditors, finance people on that board. Relying upon one or two school administrators to put together the budget and then try to figure out what happened is unacceptable. So yes, I do support the override. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Varghese.
I absolutely support the $9.5 million override. In fact, when it was brought to our committee that we might have to go with a number that was lower than that, I was the one that advocated to include some of the needs-based requests to make that the 9.5 and make that the new level service budget. I was the only member on my committee last year to advocate putting an operational override before a new school debt exclusion override. I understood the importance of it last year. I knew this was going to be a contract negotiations year that we were going into, and I was very nervous based on the conversations from our assistant superintendent of finance at the time, as well as our town administrator, about the deficits that we would be looking at. So it was something that I really advocated for, and I continue to advocate. Absolutely, there's a lot on the line, and I 100% support it. The teachers, as I've said before in my opening statement, they are the cornerstone of our district. Leaders like superintendents and school committee members come and go, but everything I can do to support our teachers and our students is what I stand behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, Ms. Caldwell.
Thank you. Yes, I support the override wholeheartedly. And my reason is looking at the effects of not passing the override. It honestly makes me very scared for our schools and for our kids, and scared for our town as a whole. The cuts to the staff and services would be monumental, and we'd see cuts to amazing programs like the theater department, which just won a state championship, and cuts to a debate team, which is doing this awesome forum. And also, oftentimes when these cuts happen, our most vulnerable populations, our most vulnerable students also are adversely affected at a higher rate. And I've I've been in companies where we've had to have a reduction in workforce, and I've never seen the people who are left have to lean over and pick up that extra work, and I've never seen the work get better as a result of having like that extra pressure. And so I fear for the quality of education in our town should this happen, our teachers being overworked, larger classroom sizes, and then how that trickles down into the value of our town, the value of our properties. Like, it's just a cycle that I don't want us to get caught in. So quality education costs money, and I'm here to support that.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Mr. Beaudoin and will be asked first to Mr. O'Neill.
Could you explain where the money to fund our schools comes from? What are your budget priorities?
Thank you for that question. The school budget is funded by taxpayers' dollars, and it's governed by what's called Proposition 2.5. Could you repeat the second part of that question?
What are your budget priorities?
Oh, my budget priorities. This is near and dear to my heart. My son George he's a sixth grader at the Pierce Middle School, and he's autistic. So he's immersed in the special ed program. That program itself, George is finding inclusion. He's finding belonging there, and he's thriving in that program. But we had to fight for services and programs to get him into as his advocate, my wife and I. It's a daunting task to navigate that special eds programs, to find out what you're legally entitled to get for your students, to get your services for your child. So my budget priority would be, after the override is passed, is to put in place a 5-year budget with the new superintendent, monitor that with the assistant superintendent, Ms. Blake, and to make sure that any deviations from those budgets are immediately addressed so that we won't come back to the town in 2 years for another override. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Varghese.
So as Mr. O'Neill said, the school is funded by taxpayers. In terms of budget priorities, I support all programs that directly impact our students, whether it be theater, debate, sports, interventionists. I advocated for the new ELA curriculum that was originally on the needs-based budget and now has been included in our new level service budget. I also advocated for interventionists, for us to include that in our as part of our budget over the last 3 years. For example, we have a dedicated math interventionist at each of our elementary schools, which is not the case 3 years ago. We had one that traveled between each of the schools. These programs are so important to help our students so that they have the support they need and are provided the resources that they need so they can all thrive. These are things I absolutely prioritize and will continue to prioritize. We will work with, and we have actually already started looking at areas where we can find efficiencies so that we can make sure that none of these programs get cut, because sometimes the impact of those decisions that we make today can really impact tomorrow, just like some of the decisions that were made during COVID that our students are still behind from. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Caldwell.
Thank you. So I've done a lot of research in this job that I want to have. And my understanding is that the money that funds our district comes from actually sort of two places. There's money that comes from the state level, so there's a Chapter 70 funding, there's a Title I funding, and some federal funds that come in, and there's also money from property taxes that attribute to our school's funding. As far as what I would like to prioritize with budgeting, one of the most important things, as I've said, is long-term forecasting. So looking forward into the future to see what we can expect to spend in 5, 10, 15 years, that sort of thing. Creating a stabilization account so that we have money on hand for emergency situations. spending money on special education. I think that it would be great if we could bring some of those services in district and accommodate more of those students in Milton rather than having to send them out for out-of-district placement, which is ultimately more expensive. And closing the achievement gaps for our students. So early intervention to identify areas that could be worked on earlier on in the process.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Hutto.
Thank you. My fellow candidates are correct on where the money comes from, so I won't repeat that. In my professional life, I spend almost all of my time building and managing budgets and deploying those resources to achieve our goals. And I'll bring that professional experience to the school committee. The first step in building a budget actually doesn't really have anything to do with the money itself. It's agreeing on what your goals are. And if you don't have goals as a district, then your budget will just be the same as last year, plus 2.5%. It will be a rinse and repeat process. So my first budget priority is agreeing on what our goals are that we want to fund. And then building a multi-year budget to help achieve those goals in the long term. The vast majority of Milton's budget, Milton's town budget and school budget is dedicated to its people. That's our biggest investment. And that's where I would want to pay very close attention. Are we using those resources to hire and retain the best teachers possible and deploying our staff across the district to meet our goals? Are we empowering our teachers and instructional staff with the curriculum that they need? As Ms. Varghese mentioned, the school committee has funded a new literacy curriculum, which is badly outdated and in need of replacement. And that's true in a couple of our curricular areas. Teachers need the tools to deploy their knowledge. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Ms. Jane and will be asked first to Ms. Varghese.
What specific steps will you take to ensure that the school budget maintains our student and teacher activities and interests, ensuring that clubs, such as debate, are allowed to continue and thrive?
I'm glad you asked that question because a couple of weeks ago, we have been really, last several weeks, trying to figure out how to close our FY25 deficit. And we've thrown a lot of ideas out there. One of them was cutting spring sports and so on and so forth, and clubs and activities. So that was something that I don't feel is where we should prioritize in terms of, I get it. I know we have to make cuts. I know we have to figure out ways to close a deficit, but I don't believe in cutting programs that directly impact our students, such as clubs and activities and sports, because they really contribute to the overall well-being of our students and their mental health. And I think it's such a great outlet. I love following all the things that are happening at the high school. I love hearing about all the clubs, and I love I was really, really impressed by the MHS Site Council presentation this year with the amount of offerings that are offered to our students. And that's something that I would never want to take away from our students, because that, when we talk about the whole student and everything that that makes up their experience at MHS, it's so important to support that. So we have to, as a committee, continue to look at other ways to improve our practices in terms of budgeting and kind of figuring out where we can find some efficiencies and cost savings, but that's one area that I refuse to budge on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Caldwell.
Thank you. So I absolutely agree with what Anna said. I said in my opening statement that strong mental health support is really important to me. I think it's a part of supporting the whole student, the whole individual. And extracurricular activities have been identified as one of the protective factors that helps protect kids from having poor mental health outcomes and health outcomes. So I would want to explore every revenue for not having to cut any of those programs, looking at state grants, looking at partnering with other organizations, whatever we can do, because these extracurricular activities, I almost hate to call them extracurricular because they're so vital and so integral to building character and the overall experience of our students and helping prepare them for the wider world. So I would definitely support every avenue, every exploration of being able to keep those programs intact and available to all of our students.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hutto.
Thank you for the question. I agree with Anna and Charisse about this. I would be very committed to continuing to fund and find ways to even expand these offerings. A little secret about me, I was not a great academic student when I was in high school. My grades were not great. The thing that kept me in school and kept me engaged were these extra programs. I was in sports, I was in theater, newspaper, yearbook. I started my high school's first environmental awareness club. These were the things that grounded me as a student and kept me tethered to my friends, my staff, and the building that I spent all of my time in. So these types of activities are very near and dear to my heart. Our students and our staff and our students' families can count on me being a presence in our schools, to be someone who listens to what is important to you and to bring that back to the school committee. And it's the school committee's role to ensure that our resources are allocated fairly, responsibly, and in a way that prioritizes the needs of our community. And for our students, having meaningful activities that draw them into our school and help build strong relationships is an essential thing that we have to fund. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. O'Neill.
After school activities, sports are healthy for the body and for the mind, and not finding the funding in order to make sure that those programs are not cut would be a huge priority if I'm voted on the board. My two daughters play high school sports, lacrosse, and they play volleyball. And I can just see that them blossoming out on the court and on the field with their teammates, forging friendships, learning about teamwork itself, the camaraderie that you get playing sports. It's goal-oriented. The theater club, we just mentioned, is a state champion. So you'd have to go to the local businesses and ask for donations there. I also go to these sporting events, and I don't pick up a program that has simple advertisements on the back promoting businesses. That's a lost opportunity that I think the schools should explore in order to generate more revenue for the after-school activities themselves. Also, we have great athletes here and great theater students. That's scholarship that could be lost if these activities are cut. So it's not going to happen on my watch. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Ms. Carroll and will be asked first to Ms. Caldwell.
Do you support the construction of a new school for Milton? Please explain why or why not.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. I do support the building of a new school. My understanding is that our schools are woefully undercrowded, and I have a 13-year-old at Pierce Middle School, and I know that there's been a lot of shuffling around. That each entering middle school class is larger than the next. There's not a lot of space. There are libraries that have been repurposed as classrooms. And in general, it's not an environment that's conducive to good learning, I think. And a middle school, a new elementary school would go a long way toward helping the overcrowding. And I think it's a smart thing to do for our district. I think it's going to help us maintain our current level of academic excellence and improve upon it, because we can have smaller classroom sizes, which would obviously be of assistance in that endeavor. And it just makes sense. At some point you do reach capacity and you have to make allowances for that. So yes, I am in favor of a new school.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hutto.
Yes, thank you for the question. As Ms. Caldwell mentioned, there are space constraints playing out across our district that are impacting student learning and teacher experience. There's examples of these in all of our schools. We have libraries that are converted to classroom space. We have teachers' offices and teachers' lounges that are converted to learning space. And there are examples in every single school. There is impact on special education, where we have special education services being delivered in hallways, in closets. Our lack of space has meant that we have had to face more out-of-district placements. So for special education students, and so it is impacting every facet of teaching and learning. It's important for people watching to understand that our application to the Massachusetts School Building Authority to build a new school has been accepted. This is a quasi-state agency, and this means that they agree that there are facilities problems in our district. And if we go through the process successfully, we'll fund hopefully some portion of the cost of our school. So I'm grateful that we have that extra time with MSBA to evaluate and get the numbers right, get the costs right. I do support a new school. I think it is the clearest path to improving our facilities problems in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. O'Neill.
I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but I've answered this question 2 times already when I ran. Yes, I am in favor of a new school for Milton, but you got to have a plan on how we're going to pay for it. As Nate just mentioned, the School Building Authority is going to reimburse the town 45% of a new building itself. It doesn't take into account the site prep work. So you're looking at, I'm going to say conservatively, $170 million school that has to be built with the reimbursements from the state and cost overruns. You're going to be looking at a $110 million project that the town's going to be on the hook for. You need a superintendent to be hired that is going to advocate for that school along with the school board. If I'm on that school board, I'll do everything in my power to make sure that it's financed correctly, that it's built on time, and that it's right for this town. So we're going to have a difficult time with the override itself, and then you're going to come back to the town again to approve the construction of a new school, and that's going to be a big lift. So that's why you need the right people in place. So put me on that board, and you won't be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Varghese.
So, as you all know, space has been a concern in our district for a very long time. During my second year, I decided to join the Facilities Advisory Committee, where we got a chance to tour all 6 schools in our district. And when I saw that 4th floor attic space of Cunningham and Collycott, I really, really wanted to make that into a space because our library, as Mr. Hutto mentioned, has been converted there into classrooms, and it's been, our rooms have been chopped up, our closets have been converted to offices. So what we did was this past winter secured $5.5 million to renovate both the 3rd and 4th floor of Cunningham and Collycott, so that we could have a new library, 4 additional classrooms, several office spaces, several collaborative spaces for our students and our teachers. This was something that I looked at as a short-term project because we talk about a new school, but a lot of things are out of our control. And I wanted to make sure that we were doing something right now so that in the foreseeable future. So with renovations slated for FY26 and FY27, we're hoping to have those spaces completed. Although my primary focus has been short-term space, I've also really respect the work of the school building committee, and I look forward to hearing more about the proposal from MSBA, and also, thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The final question will be from Ms. Soul and will be asked first to Mr. Hutto.
How will you advocate for more equitable funding, especially for students who need additional support, namely IEPs, English learners, etc., and maintain the integrity of DEI programs?
Great, thank you for the question. So school committee's role, school committee plays three important roles. One is around policy and strategy. One is around building our budget and deploying those resources. And another is hiring the superintendent, managing that person, and appointing their principal deputies. So I can answer your question by talking about those three important roles. On the policy side, we should have policies in place and a strategy in place that is meant to close achievement gaps between students across our district and within our district between schools. And we should have goals around that. I mentioned earlier that a budget building process begins with goals. We need to have goals focused on closing achievement gaps. Second, when we hire a superintendent, I would like to hire a superintendent with experience delivering equitable education across the district, closing achievement gaps in districts where those existed, and putting in place policies to promote the diversity of the community that the schools represent. And finally, around resources, resources need to be allocated equitably across the district according to where they're needed. We spend a lot of money on human resources, and we should think about how teachers are distributed across our district to drive learning results. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. O'Neill.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me pull it up. How will you advocate for more equitable funding, especially for students who need additional support, namely IEPs, English learners, and more, while also maintaining the integrity of DEI programs?
Thank you for that question and repeating it for me. About 18% of our budget is dedicated to students that are enrolled in IEP and in the special education program. That is, just last year, students enrolled in this program went from 500 to approximately 800 students. That's a big jump. That's a lot of learning loss, and what would be, it's a huge need is to get the math interventionalists and reading specialists and behavioral interventionalists into the elementary schools as early as possible. Also testing, early testing of reading and math, and making sure that you identify the students that may be a little bit behind and get them up to speed. I'm really great to see that they're using the DIBEL testing now and identifying, at-risk students. So the equity portion of it is huge because, as I mentioned before, my son George is a special needs student, and that belonging and inclusion aspect of it is super helpful for his mental health. And with the superintendent, with the strong leader, with the strong superintendent as the leader here, I don't see the special needs program, I see it being bolstered. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Varghese.
So I'm really glad you asked this question as well. I have always advocated for extra support for our students, whether it's through interventionists or additional support for our students on IEPs and out of district and in district. That is something that's absolutely necessary at the elementary school level because early intervention is so important. Because of that, we've added the number of interventionists that we have at each of our schools in the last several years because it really impacted our students and where they are because those problems don't go away as you kind of push off on those and kind of kick the can down the road, as they say. Because those problems only get bigger. So it was really something that I wanted to advocate for, and I continue to advocate. It's so great to hear from families. I love when families write in about their own personal experiences because that is so huge because the decisions that we sometimes make at our table are just around the information that's shared with us, but when people actually come in and talk to us and write into us, it's so important because I love hearing from them and hearing those perspectives. And I'm also glad you actually brought up the integrity of the DEI programs. I think that's very, very important. I've participated in a lot of those discussions as a person of color in this town. I do feel like the focus is very narrow and isn't inclusive of everyone, so that's something that I look forward to expanding on and building on, because I think if we're going to offer something like that, which we have invested so much time and energy into, I think it needs to include everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, Ms. Caldwell.
Thank you. So in working to become a member of the school committee, I've learned that our PTOs do an outsized job in their support of the schools. I thought PTOs were mainly supposed to be sort of booster clubs, right? Where you gather money for gift certificates for teachers and appreciation and that sort of thing. I've learned that our PTOs are actually supplementing a lot of the resources especially at our elementary school level. And that also then means that there's some inequity at our elementary school level, right? Because different communities have different means, and so some of the schools get, speakers coming in and other schools don't. And so for me, it's really important that we take that burden off of the PTOs, and that we make it a more district-wide endeavor. And that includes hiring a superintendent, as I said earlier, for whom equity is an important marker, is an important target when working in a district. I think that equity should guide all of our policy development, our budget and resource allocation. And I believe that when all students have access to what they need, it improves general academic outcomes in our district and creates a stronger school community.
Thank you, candidates. That concludes our school committee forum. We will now be hearing closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Ms. Caldwell, followed by Mr. Hutto, then Mr. O'Neill, and finally Ms. Varghese. Ms. Caldwell, you may begin.
Okay. So thank you for your time today. My experience in technology and finances and HR, my problem-solving skills, and my skills with collaboration, I think would make me a great asset to the school committee. I'm committed to working collaboratively with other members of the school committee on thoughtful solutions to the immediate problems that we face, as well as looking forward to long-term vision and goals of the district, which I believe was strong academics, mental health support for our students, and fostering a positive school culture. So I hope to get your vote for school committee on April 29th. And I will work for opportunity for all and excellence for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hutto.
Thank you. It's great to be here tonight. Almost every morning for the past 10 years, I've walked my kids to school, either preschool or elementary school, and it's the best part of my day. I now walk my daughter Alex to Collycott pretty much every day, and every day she's like jumping down the steps with a big smile on her face, running to school as quickly as possible. And she's like that because she loves her school and her school loves her back. And that's the district that I want us to have. I want us to have kids who love their schools, and I want their schools to love them back. I want us to have a community of parents who want to invest in the future of every child in our district. I want us to have a school committee and superintendent with the vision needed to build a world-class school system. And I have the professional experience and the disposition to help lead the school committee toward that future. Ask for your vote on April 29th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you to my fellow candidates, people in the audience, and to the audience at home as well, watching on Milton Access. My name is Dan O'Neill. I'm running for that one of those two spots on that school board. I am an experienced government auditor. I do it for a living. I've done it for 29 years. This school board, as it is consisted of, is primarily is comprised of nonprofit professionals and educators. That's great, but you need somebody like myself to look at the books. So if you want an auditor for free, you're going to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Varghese.
So I have grown a lot these past 3 years. I came on the committee and I was, the quiet one, and now I finally have found my voice, I would say. I have learned the importance of listening. I have a great relationship with my colleagues on the school committee. We listen to each other, we learn from each other, and it's been a phenomenal experience working with them. It was scary at first, as I mentioned, but this is something that I hope to pass on to my kids, which is speaking the truth no matter what, even if you're the only voice sometimes, and standing up for what you believe in. It is so absolutely important. And sometimes I might not have everyone agree with me on what I feel is right, but I stand behind my votes, and I stand behind my decisions because I know what I say today will impact tomorrow. And that's how I take every decision that I make on school committee. I'm always looking out for what happens down the road with the decision I make today. Thank you, and I hope I can have your vote on April 29th.
Thank you. And that concludes our evening. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Our next forum will be 1 week from today, Monday, April 14th, live at 7 p.m. on Comcast 22 and our Facebook and YouTube pages. The forum will feature candidates for Park Commissioner, Board of Health, Housing Authority, and Planning Board. I'd like to remind everyone that the annual town election is scheduled for April 29th. Tune into Comcast Channel 8 on Tuesday, April 29th at 8 p.m. for live election results. Thank you again to all the candidates for participating tonight, and thank you to the viewers for watching. Have a pleasant evening.